Welcome to It's 5 p.m. Somewhere with your host, Camden Wiles. But first, a quick message from our sponsor.
Cerveza más fina. To truly embrace the fine life, you must learn to let go. Only then will you find that even if you leave the beach, it never leaves you. Bienvenidos a la vida más fina.
Corona Light. Drink responsibly.
Welcome to It's 5 p.m. Somewhere, where on this podcast we analyze films and stories for their similarities. So, with me,
Noah Jeffries,
Noah Edwards,
Jackson Edelman,
and Wilson Williams.
and we are analyzing The Swimmer by John Cheever and Whiplash. So, we're just going to kick it off with some background about John Cheever, if anyone wants to take that.
He's he critiques the upper class most commonly in his short stories, which pretty important, especially in The Swimmer. I think Noah, you got to follow up on that.
Yeah, so it was written in 1964. It won the Pulitzer Prize for the stories of John Cheever, which includes The Swimmer, so that's a big deal.
Yeah, it also, I guess he kind of struggled with, alcoholism and his bisexuality. And I guess that's kind of influenced the themes and his internal struggle and denial, as you can pretty much see in his story, The Swimmer.
Yeah.
I'd say that reflects it pretty well.
Yeah.
Alright, so how we're going to cover this is we're going to just kind of go into The Swimmer, explain that, go into Whiplash, explain that, and then kind of explore some of those similarities. So I'll kick it off with just kind of the plot of The Swimmer. So we have Ned, our main character, at a pool party. He starts swimming through pools. And at first he's getting warm regards from friends, and that's kind of when he kicks off his journey to swim through all pools. So as he goes, he's swimming through pools. People become less welcoming. The weather shifts to cold, where you can kind of see that shift in the story. And then kind of falling down, Ned begins to tire out, but he continues anyway. And then slowly Ned is rejected by his elite circle of former friends, who just kind of start to treat him with disregard. And you can kind of see Ned is denying this loss of wealth, denying this denial from his friends. And he continues home anyway, exhausting weekend. And eventually he reaches his house, and he arrives with it being locked, dark, and empty, chasing his goal, losing everything except himself. So if anyone wants to go into maybe more about the characters, there's a few notable ones. There's some setting.
Jackson, you got anything?
I mean, I guess Ned, like you said, about his unrealistic goals and stuff, and how he kind of loses the people around him. And I guess you could maybe say once he loses the people around him due to his goal, he kind of loses his purpose, because he also kind of loses his I guess his sense of purpose through his relationships and stuff.
Yeah.
I would agree. Very heavily.
Yeah.
Anyone else got ideas?
Anyone else? Maybe more characters, maybe some setting?
Yeah, so we, with the setting, we got summer, but autumn could also be the hours of day. It's a pretty wealthy suburban neighborhood, I would say, for the most part. And there's a lot of pools, for sure, which also usually goes with wealth. But there's social decline as the pools get worse throughout the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
For
Figurative language, each pool can be viewed as a checkpoint of the past, and also irony, as his goal ends up leaving him isolated and lonely.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like what Noah said about for setting, the summer to autumn, being the hours of the day. It kind of shows that physical shift in his mental well-being. It's that happy, that summer, to like that colder or like even gloomy late autumn, and then along with that, like the wealthy suburban neighborhood that's kind of just like setting the foundation for a John Cheever story, being like white suburban neighborhood, wealthy suburban neighborhood, where there's just kind of that loss, so it's that critique.
Very John Cheever.
Very.
Very.
Yeah, so then just kind of going in the climax of the story being like the Biswangers party, and that's like that first time he's met with some disdain rather than being greeted warmly from his neighbors.
Yeah, it all resolves itself, one could say, at the end when he gets home, but he's lonely and exhausted.
Yeah.
One could also not really call that a resolution. Right?
Yeah. So if we were to come up with a theme, what are we thinking? Like, what's the theme of this story?
I think Noah has it.
You know, maybe there's some, I don't know, maybe some self-disillusionment in setting unrealistic goals.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
It also has themes of the fragility of social status and wealth, I feel like.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah, very John Cheever too, again,
Very
just
Cheever.
critiquing.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, so I think we're going to go into Whiplash now. That movie, very similar themes, and we'll explore that. So if anyone wants to kind of just, go through the plot, pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so the main character is Andrew Neiman, and so he enrolls at Schaefer, which is one of the most prestigious art schools or musician schools for musicians in the country. And so he's kind of in I forget what band he's in originally, but and then he goes in the studio band, which is like the most kind of prestigious band at Schaefer, and I guess Fletcher, that's the teacher, right?
Yeah.
He kind of just pushes Andrew to absolute perfection, and it kind of leaves Andrew isolated, especially like when he breaks up with his girlfriend to like focus on drumming and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else wants to add about the plot.
I'd say, continue on that, like Andrew's push towards isolation, push towards perfection, rather, isolates him, and his mental health is, like, declining, as you said, breaking up with his girlfriend, and he's kind of isolating himself.
Yeah. See it in one scene where he's punching the drum.
Punching the drum.
Yeah.
And I'd say the ending kind of really shows, kind of sums up his chase when he finally meets that goal, and Fletcher's like kind of celebrating him on his drumming at the end. But then the film ends in a black circle closing around his face, and I think that's kind of a representation of him achieving that goal, but that black circle showing that isolation within that goal.
Yeah, another part in the movie where he kind of shows his determination is when he's on the way to the concert, but he gets in that car crash.
Yeah.
And he's all bloody, and he has to run to the auditorium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess that brings us to the characters, which are also beautifully complex. We have Andrew. He's a dedicated drummer, and he seeks greatness, but to what extent? And then we have Fletcher. He's going to be the abusive band instructor. He's very brutal, but you also see moments where he's very kind and gentle. But is he doing that just to be abusive?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That kind of adds to his manipulation, manipulating Andrew.
Oh yeah.
And then we got finally Nicole and Andrew, and Nicole had a thing, but Andrew left her as he was pursuing his goals. He thought it was getting in the way.
Yeah.
Always will be thinking about drumming, right?
Cool. So yeah, I mean, setting, I feel like there's not much to say. There might be key moments like the car where he's speeding there, I think.
All the key moments for setting kind of happen outside the typical setting, I'd say.
Right.
Like, towards the end, when he's being at a bar, being told to come back to the band, in the car accident, when he's at it, when he first meets his girlfriend in the movie theater, and when he breaks up there at a restaurant. None of those are typical locations,
That is very true. Yeah, so then if anyone wants to talk about some themes, I think there's a lot in this movie. definitely a lot to cover if
It is.
anyone wants to take.
Obvious themes of, loss of self and isolation,
Yeah.
throughout the entire thing, which is that's probably the most obvious one, but if there's anything like a lot more specific that people want to talk about.
Well, yeah, going off like isolation and stuff. I mean, I can see why he's super isolated, just because he practically gives up on all his relationships he has. I mean, he literally has like no friends.
Yeah.
He broke up with his girlfriend. I feel like he grew distant with his father as well.
His family in general. I mean, at
Yeah.
that family dinner, they were all kind of
Oh,
like
yeah.
they kind of all hated him because he thought he was better than them.
Yeah, he
100%.
was very egotistical, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when he was talking to, I don't know if that was for his cousins at the table, or
I think so. That or sibling.
Yeah.
like how they played D3 football, and how he was like clowning on them, like, oh, you're never gonna hear from the NFL
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, I'm gonna be like the best drummer of all time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, very.
I mean, honestly, I could see how someone could not like him just because of his ego. But
Oh, his ego's
I know.
his ego's crazy, and that kind of goes into there's a whole debate about like who took the folder,
Oh,
who took
yeah.
the binder.
Oh yeah.
Was it Andrew being
I think
like?
it was Fletcher.
I
think
think it was Fletcher.
Yeah, I could see it being Fletcher.
Because like after when he can't find the folder, they like go back into the like rehearsal area, I guess, and Fletcher kind of comes in like, where the hell's your folder? Like, well, he didn't say those words, but yeah,
Meaner words.
Yeah. I feel like he definitely took it.
And I feel like not just that, like I think he almost set it up perfectly too. Fletcher was like, and don't forget, like don't leave around your folders or I'll throw it away, like whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it just happens at like that perfect moment somehow. So I can definitely see it being Fletcher.
Andrew definitely embraced his losing it though, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's great because we don't know. We can only assume there could be a whole nother story about that folder going missing.
All right.
Maybe the guy was just an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go into, I guess the whole point of this podcast is making those connections
Yeah.
between the swimmer and Whiplash, and I think there are plenty to be made.
Oh yeah.
So if anyone wants to kick it off, I mean, there is a lot to talk about here.
I mean, I guess the first one, isolation and the pursuit of goals.
Yeah.
I feel like that really corresponds with both stories. Andrew kind of he gives up those relationships and stuff just to be the best drummer he can be, and it really takes a toll on him. Obviously, we talked about earlier, he really doesn't have any friends. He gave up on his girlfriend and that relationship, and that's like kind of what focuses on his isolation. And if someone wants to go in on this swimmer, I guess like just the abandoned house has the darkness surrounded by it. I guess also like corresponds with Andrew and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd say specifically with relationships, I mean, in the swimmer, I mean, he goes from honestly good relationships. I mean, just like Whiplash, he had that girlfriend, like he started having some healthy relationships, and then just like in the swimmer, he loses his girlfriend in the swimmer. He gets the same from his neighbors who he was close with. Seems like a close-knit community that he just kind of loses in that pursuit of his goal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say that's definitely a big one. And I'd say further on that isolation, like you said, the dark abandoned house, it comes back to in the swimmer. And then I'd say that's kind of similar to like with Andrew, it closes with that black circle on him. So I think those kind of like really show that isolation with that dark, just like black, like you can almost envision that isolation. So yeah.
As you say, an important connection between the two is probably the declining mental health of our protagonist.
Yeah.
I mean, they start caring less and less about themselves, like their bodies, and just specifically their goals, and no one else around them. I mean, the swimmer becomes like drinks. I mean, I don't even remember how much he drinks. He drinks a lot.
Yeah, he drinks a lot in there.
And if it's only over a few hours, that man probably has a hospital visit in his future.
Yeah.
And Andrew, I think at least 3 or 4 times in the film we can see his hands covered in blood while he's playing the drums.
Yeah.
Covered in band-aids too.
Yeah,
trying
especially
to
at the
cover
end.
it all up.
Yeah. So there's that declining physical health too. I mean, just like the swimmer is exhausted and stuff. So there's that similarity there as well.
Oh yeah.
So we got the critique American Dream.
Oh, of course, John Cheever coming back.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So Whiplash, the cost of greatness, and then the swimmer, the emotional loss, and well, Anyone want to add to that?
For sure, yeah. I mean, yeah. There's like John Cheever elements again, and I think Whiplash is a similar. It's just like that cost of the American dream. Like everyone sees it, like upper middle class kind of that. Like, I mean, in the Swimmer, that like wealthy suburban neighborhood, people are going to achieve, but there's a cost with that. In the Swimmer, it was his mental health. When he still wants more, he feels not done, which is kind of part of that American dream, is just like picking yourself up and doing your thing no matter the cost. You just keep going, similar to
Do you
Whiplash.
think we could say that Andrew pursues the American dream, or do you think he goes against it?
Yeah, I'd say he's pursuing it. I mean, he's trying to be a self-made musician,
He's trying to be the
achieving
greatest.
greatness
True.
from nothing. So, I mean, he goes to like a good school, like somewhere. I mean, the kids in America. I mean, you got kids coming over and they want to go to the Ivies.
Oh yeah.
So this is like his Ivy, I'd
True.
say.
Actually,
Yeah,
you're right.
He's trying to achieve that thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There was one thing though that I thought was really interesting. Do you guys remember? Well, would you say his like his family has already reached that middle class, D3 football players? Oh yeah. Not something I could ever do. So, but
I mean, yeah. I mean, I know he doesn't have his mom's not really in his life, and then his dad's just a teacher. But I mean, I feel like, I mean, you can't really have like all the money in the world as long as like you have a family. I feel like that's like how you get successful in life. But at the same time, I feel like Andrew's kind of denying that success of like family and relationships.
I mean, there's that similarity again too with the Swimmer. I mean, he's already in that once he's part of the neighborhood. They're tight with the neighbors. He's in an elite circle, but he still wants more. Yeah, and I'm thinking there's something else. I don't know. I feel like there's more here. I feel like there's more substance
like
here.
Denial of reality. Maybe?
Yeah, I mean.
Oh yeah. Say Andrew denies the damage. He does to himself and those around him.
Yeah, I mean, even talking to a therapist, he's talking to a therapist, and he downplays it.
Oh yeah, he's
self-inflicted.
Yeah.
And I feel like he kind of realizes at the end when he like calls Nicole. I don't know if you guys remember that at the very end of the movie to like come to his new jazz performance.
I do remember that.
And she's like, "Oh, I have to ask my boyfriend," and that kind of like stabs him in the heart a little bit. He's like, "Geez, I should not have let her go."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did all the
fumbled
time
the
go?
10 out of 10.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, I guess I could go into with the Swimmer. He had those really, and he's like denying reality. I mean, he also has like failing life, failing relationships, failing mental health, failing physical health. So I think there's definitely a connection to be made there with like Andrew, like you said, with that like just denying the reality, like at the therapist and downplaying it all. So I think that's all some very great connections, some similar themes.
I had thought up of one little thing while we were talking here. Actually, a good theme between the two is what can you define as success?
Yeah.
Like what was it that it's like it was Neiman, right? Not Neiman. Yeah, it was Andrew Neiman, right? His name, right?
Yeah.
He says he'd rather die on the street, like drugged out at 30, than live in a house until 90.
Like when will you be satisfied?
Yeah.
Or will you never be satisfied?
Yeah,
And I feel like it's different for like every person. I feel like.
Yeah. Like even when you have goals, I mean, people have goals, but then you hit it, and what's next?
Yeah.
So there's always that like what's next mentality.
Yeah.
Mamba mentality.
Yeah.
It's like you work so hard at your goal, and then you finally get it, and then the first thought in your mind is, okay, now what?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
All right, I think that's great to conclude on. Great thought there, Wilson.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for joining me on It's 5 p.m. Somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, awesome sauce.